Hello classes, today we're going to take a look at some problems solving some trigonometric equations from section 5.5. Our first couple of problems we're going to find all the solutions to our equation. So for number 1 we have the cosine of x is equal to negative 3 pi over 2. So we're really ready to find out what angle or angles have a cosine of negative root 3 over 2. So take a look at your unit circle and let's find the reference angle first. The reference angle is going to be pi over 6, and then we're just going to put it into the correct quadrant to make the cosine a negative. The cosine is negative in quadrant 2 and it's also negative in quadrant 3. Okay, so let's think about putting our pi over 6 in quadrant 2. So x equals, again, pi over 6 is our reference angle. We're going to put it into quadrant 2, which would be 5 pi over 6. And then we're also going to put our reference angle into quadrant 3 to put pi over 6 into quadrant 3. You're going to have 7 pi over 6. And since we're going to find all of the solutions, what we have to do is, remember, you're just going to go all the way around the circle, which is 2 pi. You're going to take your angle and you're going to add 2n pi to that. And what that does is it's just going to take 5 pi over 6 and then spin it around the circle forwards and backwards, 2 pi, and get to every angle that works. We're going to do the same thing for 7 pi over 6. Again, add 2n pi, and there we go. We've got all the solutions for cosine of x equals negative root 3 over 2. Now our next problem is dealing with tangent of x equaling the square root of 3. Again, we're going to find all of the solutions here. So first off, let's just think, where is the tangent the square root of 3? Well, at pi over 3, remember the tangent is just your y over x, which is root 3 over 2 over 1/2, which is going to give us the square root of 3. So our reference angle is pi over 3. So I'll write down x equals pi over 3. That's in quadrant 1, so that's definitely a correct answer for the positive here. And for tangent x, since the period is just 1 pi, we can stop here and just put it in quadrant 1 and add n times pi, which will get us really halfway around the circle, and that'll give us all of the correct solutions for a tangent that's positive. Remember, tangent's going to be positive, of course, in quadrant 1, and then tangent is also positive in quadrant 3 because it would have been a negative over a negative. So that gets us quadrant 1, quadrant 3, which is just halfway around that circle. So we just add n pi, and we've got it. We're done. That will give us all of the solutions for tangent of x equals the square root of 3. For our third problem, this time they're asking us to just solve on the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So we're really just going once around the circle. We're not going to have to put plus 2n pi for this one. We're just put it in the correct quadrant or quadrants that solve our equation here. So let's take a look at what we've got. I've got the sine squared of x minus 2 times the sine of x minus 3 is equal to 0. And this one, it's set equal to 0, and what we're going to do is really try to factor this and see if we can solve this. If you want to, you can think of this, if you replace sine of x with a u, if it makes it a little easier to look at, you can say u squared minus 2u minus 3 is equal to 0, where u is just sine of x. And maybe this looks a little simpler to factor. So let's see if we can factor it. The signs are going to be different. And I know I'm going to use a 1 times a 3. To get a negative 2 in the middle, I'll use a negative on the 3 and a positive on the 1, right? Because that'll give me negative 3u plus u, which is going to give me that negative 2u in the middle. And now I can go ahead and set those factors equal to 0. So I have u plus 1 is 0. And u minus 3 is 0. U is equal to negative 1, or u is equal to a positive 3. Now remember, we replaced sine of x with a u, so this is the time to go back and replace that. U is just the sine of x. So the sine of x is negative 1. And then over here I have the sine of x is equal to a positive 3. Okay? And now we're just going to find what angle or angles will make these true. So first off, what angle has a sine that's a negative 1? Let's think about our unit circle again. Where's the sine negative 1? Right here at the bottom, right? At 3 pi over 2. And that's the only place. So for this one, my angle x is 3 pi over 2. For my other equation, well, where is the sine equal to a 3? Well, there's no place where the sine is going to be a 3. Remember, sine x and cosine x are only going to be from negative 1 to positive 1. So really 3 is too big. There is no place where the sine of an angle is going to give me 3. Again, that is just too big. It's not going to give me a solution, but at least I got one solution. X equals 3 pi over 2. Okay, our next problem is 3 cosine squared of x minus cosine x minus 4 is equal to 0. So again, here I'm noticing I have a cosine squared of x at the beginning and then a cosine x in the middle. I'm hoping that I can factor this and solve it that way. It's already set to 0. If you like, you can replace cosine of x with that u if you think it makes it look a little simpler for you. So I can rewrite this as 3u squared minus u minus 4 is equal to 0. And now we're going to see if we can get this factored. To get 3u squared, I have a 3u times a u at the beginning. And the factors of 4 are either 1 and 4 or a 2 and a 2. The signs do have to be different. Just take a minute and let's see which one works to give you the correct negative 1 u in the middle. So we take a look. I'm using 4 and 1, and I'm going to check it. If I put a plus on this one, the outer will give me 3u. And if I put a minus on the 4, I'm going to have a minus 4u. So when I check it, I've got 3u squared. The outer is going to be 3u. The inner is negative 4u, which gives me negative u in the middle, and then a minus 4 at the end. So I was able to get it factored. Set each factor equal to 0. Solve for u. I'll add 4 here. And divide by 3 to get u by itself. So for this one, I have u equals 4/3. Remember, u was cosine of x, so really I have the cosine of x equals 4/3. My other equation, I just need to subtract 1. And again, u is supposed to be cosine of x. So this equation is really the cosine of x equals a negative 1. And then we'll just find any angle or angles that make these equations true. Well, the cosine of x equals 4/3. Again, 4/3 is bigger than 1. And so that's too big again. That's not going to give us any solution. Cosine or sine of an angle can only go from negative 1 to positive 1. So far I don't have an answer here. But the other one says the cosine of an angle x equals a negative 1. So let's think about our unit circle. And where is the cosine a negative 1? Well, right here. That's at pi. So for this one, x equals pi will be our solution for this equation.